Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the moon in the second house in a natal chart. Now, some of you may remember when I first started my YouTube astrology channel, I did a series on the moon placements in the houses that were a little bit concise, and some people may have referred to them as snappy. So what I decided to do is make another series on those placements in which the videos would be a little bit longer and more descriptive. So first thing up, well, the moon, first up, well, this is like, it's comparable to the moon in Taurus, but of course you got to blend in the zodiac sign when you're making the delineation on this. Now, um, as far as the moon in the second house goes, now the moon is connected with our emotional needs. So, emotional needs may be strongly tied into money, generating income, possessions, acquiring material items, our resources, self-worth, self-esteem, how one feels about oneself, the development of latent talents and abilities, the values a person has, and just having peace and stability in one's life in general. This may be auspicious for doing things public related. It can be also to a person may really derive some kind of a security and safety through making money. And another thing too is the moon in astrology is associated with our emotions. Now, with the moon in the second house, it can be where the emotions can be rather stable. Naturally, you've got to look at the whole picture with the moon, the sign it's in, and aspects. But if you have your moon, say if it's in Taurus and the second house, then it really can indicate a lot of stability with the emotions. But like say if you have your moon in Gemini in the second house, you got to keep in mind that Gemini is very mercurial and fickle, and even though it be in the second house, you got to factor that sign in to some degree when looking at this. Now another thing is that the emotions that are expressed can be rather persistent and could be stable, steady. It can be where the person may become more emotional regarding matters pertaining to money and possessions compared to the average person. Matters associated with banking, finance. Um, it can be where, as well, matters with self-esteem, self-worth, how one feels about oneself, as some examples. And the thing about this too, it's really when you look at the moon in astrology, is also connected with our responses and reactions. So, since this is comparable to the moon in Taurus and the responses and reactions, sometimes the person may be, non-responsive or take some time to answer or respond to a situation. Responses and reactions may be rather methodical and deliberate. The person may ponder over a situation for some time before reacting to it. It's also, matters, the second house is connected with our values, so, there may be more emphasis, on as far as the responses and reactions go in matters that are associated, with the things that the person values. There may be more of a tendency to react and respond to things that are associated with one's values more so than other matters. And it could be, too, when you look at this as well, the second house is about how we feel about oneself and, our self-worth and self-esteem. So, feeling, responses, in some cases being able to respond, readily to matters may be tied in with those matters, with the self-worth, the self-esteem, and how one feels about oneself. And now another thing too about the moon in astrology, it's associated with the mother family. So this is a person that may strongly emphasize family values, and the mother may play an integral role in the development of those values and matters that are pertaining again to self-worth, self-esteem, how one feels about oneself, the monetary situation of the person. And the person may, be subject to fluctuations monetarily with this placement. The moon is known to be, it's connected with moods. It could be that moody, fluctuating, erratic financial situation for some people. And it's also too going back to the mother and the family, people you're close to home with. They may figure prominently more so in your possessions, more so than the average person. And again, self-worth, the self-esteem, how one feels about oneself. You may also, too, the moon in astrology is associated with the public. So this placement may be auspicious for generating income, making money in connection with the public. It could be where the public may show loyalty, or you could be somebody that is very loyal and steadfast to the public. Whatever it is you may be doing, if you are in connection with the public, it could be where the public might figure strongly and figure more prominently in your self-worth, more so than for a lot of other instances with other people or compared to other placements on average. Now, it's also about you. This could be a placement that may be positive for using. We're not using, but being involved with the public for matters with buying and selling. It could be a situation where you're in a retail outlet, or you're working as a pawnbroker, as another example. And the thing about this is you may intuitively have a good conception of matters with money. It could be the fifth house is really like what's more tied into investments. But if you have the moon in the second house, given that the moon is intuition and the second house is money, I would think this placement could be positive for matters in terms of, making, the decisions, monetarily, a lot of times instinctively, which wouldn't exclude investments in some instances. Now, it could also be, as far as the moon goes in astrology, the moon is connected with our unconscious side. So, going to the intuitive thing again, where there could be where the person may be very intuitive in matters connected, that are monetary, for matters associated with possessions, and it could also be to where the unconscious side may be drawn, toward peace, stability, comfort. Um, there may be unconscious some kind of desire, need for creature comforts, and also the person may be drawn on a more unconscious level to make money, and that unconscious side of the person, which is the moon, may often come out strongly with the place that you're generating money at. So another thing too about this placement, the moon is associated with our memories. So there may be a lot of memories tied into one's values, the matters that were tied into one's self-worth, whether for better or worse, whether there were situations in which this self-worth was augmented or it was diminished. Material matters connect with possessions, material items, creature comforts. Um, Person may often reminisce about more peaceful, tranquil periods in one's life, the latent talents and abilities of the individual. And another thing about this placement is that this person may make money, generate income, doing something related to food or restaurant work. Whether it's just could be providing a food service, or working in could be a fast food outlet. Doing something, a place that just sells food. You know, It could be also too where this person they nurture and care for their money, as far as their money goes, their possessions more so than the average person. And this is where, and also care more about the development of latent talents and abilities as well. There are matters that are connected with their self-worth, their self-esteem, how one feels about themselves, being financially stable, having their peace in their life, as some examples. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.